Human-centered designs make the most meaningful impact. At Olin, students learn to work in partnership with local communities with humility and empathy. olin.edu. And City Space Productions, WBUR's creative studio for custom podcasts that tell a brand's story to ignite engagement, reach new audiences, or establish thought leadership. WBUR.org/creative studio.
Ali Vaez was involved with the 2015 negotiations that led to the Iran nuclear deal. He's also a nuclear scientist. A new deal was tantalizingly close late last month, so why did the U.S. and Israel launch their war against Iran anyway?
That Iran has always been the other of the West, this bellwether state that the West has had difficulty understanding.
That's on the next On Point.
You can hear that tomorrow with On Point here on WUSF 89.7 Tampa, winner of the 2025 Edward R. Murrow National Award for Overall Excellence. That is given to a station that exemplifies the importance and impact of journalism as a service to the community. You may have seen the report last October from WUSF's Nancy Guan on the Wong Kai Asian Grocery in Bradenton. In business for more than 40 years and facing real threats from tariffs. You can see the report at WUSF.org. Well, here it is 5 months later, and the impacts of tariffs on small businesses is a bit more clear. Do you have a small business story to share? Call in to Florida Matters Live and Local. It's coming up next after the news.
Oak Hammock at the University of Florida is a 55 and up life plan community that continues to expand and grow for its residents. With plenty of amenities and opportunities to flourish, the next move is always yours. Learn more at oakhammock.org.
The City of Tampa recently implemented red light cameras at intersections across the city. They say it comes after 371 crashes caused by red light violations. I'm Matthew Petty, and today we're talking about a recent court case involving red light cameras. Have you been snapped by a red light camera? Do you think the cameras improve safety on the roads? You can join the conversation. Call 813-755-6562, or you can email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org and let us know what you think about red light cameras. Also taking a trip to the Florida Aquarium and diving into the animal encounters you can expect, and we'll have an update on a bold plan to restore Florida's ailing corals. All this and your calls and emails coming up on Florida Matters Live and Local after these headlines.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump says the United States and Iran are talking. Before taking off from Memphis from West Palm Beach, Florida today, Trump told reporters that his administration's engaged in talks with Iran and laying out objectives for how to end the conflict. NPR's Deepa Shivaram reports the president says both countries will meet to end the war, quote, very, very soon.
President Trump says an end to the war with Iran would involve an agreement of no more enriched uranium for Iran and a removal of the material they already have.
If this happens, it's a great start for Iran to build itself back, and it's everything that we want. And it's also great for Israel, and it's great for the other Middle Eastern countries.
How the U.S. would remove the enriched uranium is unclear. The president said, quote, "We'll take it ourselves." Trump posted on social media that because talks with Iran were productive over the last few days and are set to continue, the U.S. will postpone strikes on Iranian power plants and energy sites for the next 5 days. Iran's foreign ministry denies having dialogue with Trump. Deepa Shivaram, NPR News, the White House.
New York's LaGuardia Airport is closed until at least 2 p.m. Eastern after a runway collision last night. 2 pilots were killed when their Air Canada regional jet out of Montreal collided into a fire truck during landing. Local authorities say about 40 passengers and crew members were taken to area hospitals, some with serious injuries. Live ATC provided a recording of air traffic control radio chatter during the incident.
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower, requesting to cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, crossing 4 at Delta.
The region's Port Authority Chief, Catherine Garcia, says the fire truck was responding to a separate incident aboard a United Airlines flight when it was struck. A jury in Los Angeles is expected to deliver a verdict soon in a trial over social media addiction. NPR's Bobby Allen reports the case centers on whether Instagram and YouTube were designed to hook young people and keep them spending more time on the social media sites.
A jury of 5 men and 7 women have been deliberating for more than a week and have indicated they may be close to a verdict. The case focused on a California woman who said she developed depression, anxiety, and body image issues after compulsively using Instagram and YouTube as a young child. Lawyers for the woman say Meta and Google built defective products that led to her becoming addicted to social media and contributed to her mental health struggles. Tech company attorneys say social media platforms are being scapegoated for complex mental health issues that have many root causes. It's the first time the question of social media addiction has been before a jury, and the case is tied to 1,600 other pending cases. The outcome could shape how those cases eventually settle. Bobby Allen, NPR News.
From Washington, this is NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance. Progressive is looking for individuals in a variety of career fields who want to help build a culture of inclusiveness. More information, including application, at progressive.com/careers.
You're listening to WUSF 89.7. I'm Craig Kopp. Flooding's a big problem for the Tampa Bay region, not just from hurricanes, but also heavy rain, high tides, and rising sea levels.
So about half of our population in the region lives less than 10 feet above sea level. And some areas flood even on sunny days.
Alona Todd is with the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. It's using a 4-year grant to map out where the coastline is vulnerable across 7 counties.
This unified plan that will sort of coordinate and help propel some of our solutions forward and make sure that our local governments and our communities are prepared when big funding dollars become available.
Todd referenced a 2025 study that found every dollar invested in resilience can result in more than $1.4 trillion over 10 years. The pesky algae that washes up on Florida's beaches could soon be in your food. Imran Ahmad says he and other researchers at Florida International University have come up with a way to use sargassum in everyday grocery store items.
Let's say a sports drink, let's say a simple soup, and establish that it works the same way if you would buy a commercial alginate.
Alginate is what they can extract from sargassum. It's used to provide more structure to certain foods or liquids like soup, sauces, and some drinks. Ahmad says it can also be used in animal and fish feed.
It can create a new source of income or industry for the local cities. Somebody might be starting a business out of it.
Ahmad said that he and his team took an environmental issue and turned it into a new opportunity. You may have seen some scattered rain in the last week or so, maybe, but Florida is experiencing its most significant drought in more than 2 decades. The Florida Public Radio Emergency Network reports all 67 counties are experiencing some level of drought that ranges from moderate to exceptional, the most severe category. You can see just how bad it is and find out where conditions are the worst at WUSF.org. I'm Craig Kopp, WUSF 89.7 News.
On the Bay Blend podcast, we dive into some of the cool things that make the Tampa Bay area unique, like talking to 5 women who used to be mermaids back in the 60s at Weeki Wachee Springs, diving back into the springs again.
How hard is it to put on the tail?
I've got a messed up knee, got messed up stomach, got messed up arm. It's hard.
You'll get a bit of news, culture, and events every day on the Bay Blend from WUSF. You can listen wherever you get your podcasts or at WUSF.org.
This is Florida Matters Live and Local, sponsored by Badawi Law and broadcasting from the Drs. Lorraine Rubis and Neil Frankel studio at WSF in Tampa. I'm Matthew Petty. Earlier this month, a Broward County judge ruled a fine from a red light camera was unconstitutional. The defense lawyer argued the fine assumes the registered owner is behind the wheel of the car. Here's attorney Brett Luskin on South Florida TV station WPLG.
It's not about safety. It was never about safety. It's just about money. These programs, they turn the system on its head and turn drivers into an ATM, where every time you miss that red light by one tiny fraction of a second, you have to pay up.
Well, for now, the judge's ruling about the fine, it's only applicable to this case in the city of Sunrise. Attorney Luskin told us on Florida Matters Live and Local that last week the city of Sunrise filed a motion for rehearing and to certify questions to Florida's 4th District Court of Appeal. We hope to talk to him about it on a later show. It remains to be seen if this has implications, though, for the rest of the state. But as it stands, there are 52 intersections with red light cameras here in Tampa and hundreds throughout the state. I want to hear from you on this issue. Do you support the use of red light cameras? Do you think they're government overreach? You can join the conversation by calling 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. Or emailing FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Well, joining us to talk more about the use of red light cameras is Melissa Wandall, president of the National Coalition for Safer Roads. Melissa, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm grateful to be here today.
So I imagine you read or heard about this latest ruling with interest. What was your reaction to that?
You know, I've been doing this now for almost 22 years, and it's up and down. This always comes out, something always comes out, and it's usually this topic. And the red light safety cameras are about safety. I will assure you that, because they have my husband's name on them. And if they were not about safety, these cameras, I would not have my husband's name on it. I just didn't just work to pass this law, but I also work to stay involved. And so as an advocate, to be able to simply drive down insatiable heartache on our roadways because people are making very dangerous decisions. They are breaking safety laws, and people are being seriously injured and killed.
Okay, so just give us a little bit of the backstory for listeners who may not be aware of your story. Like, what was it that got you involved 22 years ago in this?
Thank you so much. Yes, October 24th of 2003, unfortunately, my husband and my brother were in a horrific crash just a mile from our home. My husband was a motorist, my brother was the driver, my husband the passenger. They were stopped at a red light. Their last turn to come home, my brother proceeded left through the intersection on green when a motorist traveling 48 to 52 miles an hour ran that light, caused a crash, killed my husband of 1 year and 5 days, emotionally and physically debilitated my brother. And my husband and I were 9 months pregnant with our daughter. So our daughter was born 2 weeks later without her father. And so for me, I had to find a way. I couldn't control that moment, right? I could not control what that motorist did. So I had to set out to control the moments after that and find a way to curb the behaviors of red light running so that less people would be left unaffected by these motorists that are breaking these safety laws and seriously injuring and killing and harming our loved ones, but also themselves. And what people don't understand, it's not just about the victims, it's about the violator. For the rest of their lives, they have to carry with them that they seriously injured or killed someone else. That's a pretty heavy load to carry as well.
Got a call coming in from Christy in Newport Richie. Christy, you're on the air.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, I just want to make a quick comment. And first is, I had a friend of mine who their son was killed by a red light runner, I guess you could call him. But one of the biggest concerns that I've had, I'm a safe driver, and I had 4 different violations. And within the span of, I think it was 2 weeks, because of whatever was going on, it was just this one light in particular that we did some research, and we think it was just timed differently. But there's a sweet spot between when the right turns, red, where it's yellow to red, where if you're out of, velocity of 60 miles per hour, slamming on your brakes is actually a lot more damage to your car, and it just puts you at risk to go into reverse and go back to the line again, right? So there's a fine line between running a red light or proceeding with caution and also, being the idiot who runs a light and actually puts everyone at risk, right?
Okay, so you're saying there's a place for it, but maybe you could see some tweaking to how they're operated or managed?
Yeah, I know that there's a delay on the other end as well. So I'm that type of driver when I do proceed through a green light and it's in an intersection where there are, potential hazards, especially in Pasco County, let's be honest. So you always look to the right or left no matter what, because there's always that risk of someone running the red light. And unfortunately, we all can learn that the hard way, I'm sure. And I'm sorry about the caller, but previous of my talking to you. But yeah, that's terrible what happened. But yeah, I just think that there is something of a venture, if you will, between these red light cameras and the city or county benefiting from them, from just an average person who is a safe driver. And there's that, again, that sweet spot where technically I wasn't running the red light. I was at a velocity where I couldn't make that safe spot or that safe stop.
Right.
So
Okay.
I'm a little nervous being on the radio, but yeah, just follow what I'm saying. Yeah.
Hey, thanks for your call. I really appreciate that. Christy, let me just there's a couple of points in there, I think. Melissa, if I could sort of turn that over to you, the idea that if you're slamming on your brakes, that can be dangerous. So let's tackle that. I mean, what do you make of that argument? Because I'm sure in the 22 years you've been doing this work, you've heard that before too.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? I have compassion for everybody's misunderstanding of these red light safety cameras. But number one, you're not going to get a ticket unless your front tires are crossing that line on red, right? On white, that crossing on red, your front tires are crossing that. That's when you are running a red light and when you put somebody else at risk. We drive every day. We know that the light is always going to turn red. There's always going to be a caution period. We have to watch our speed and what we're driving on the road. We always have to be prepared to stop. This whole thing of everybody saying that, these cameras are causing people to get a red light violation because they had to go through it because it wasn't safe to stop. That's not, we have to take back and learn we're driving, right? We're the drivers. We have to be respectful out on our roadways. We have to remember our safety laws. We always have to be mindful that light is always going to turn red.
Yeah.
And listen, if there's a problem at that intersection with the light, then you have the ability to go in front of a judge. You get the ability to see yourself whether you ran that light or not.
Yeah.
You still have due process. You can still go to court.
You can argue your case,
if
sure.
you're running that light, then your ticket will be thrown out.
Let me go to the phones again. We've got Michelle standing by. Michelle, you're on the air. What are you thinking?
I love the red light cameras. I'm a long resident of the city of Tampa and the Tampa area now, and there are several intersections that were well known for cars running through the red light long after it had turned for them. When my niece first moved to Tampa, I had to caution her about the intersection at Dale Mabry and Kennedy because the cars on Kennedy would consistently run the red light. It made a demonstrable difference in traffic after a red light camera was installed. So I am completely in favor of them, and I felt much safer after several of these intersections were controlled. I disagree with the inability to stop. You're either exceeding the speed limit as you're approaching that light, or you're just not paying attention. Sometimes you do look in your rearview mirror, and the car behind you obviously thinks that, we're both going to run the red light, and they need to stop too. But I completely agree with your speaker that they are a safety issue, and I am appreciative of them.
Thank you for your call, Michelle. Appreciate that. Melissa, I wanted to just come back to a thing that our previous caller mentioned on the revenue. What's your understanding of where that revenue goes? Because that is also, as the attorney, Brett Luskin, mentioned, he sees it as kind of a quote-unquote ATM for local governments.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. I'm really happy to talk about it. First of all, there's a $158 fine, right? That's the initial fine that you start with. And then you have the $75 that goes to the municipality to run the cameras. You have $70 that goes to the general fund. We can't help those things. That's policy and legislation. You don't have control over that. They tell you what's going to happen there. But $10 per ticket go to 22 level 1 trauma centers in the state of Florida. $3 per ticket go to the Miami Project to Cure Paralysis. So, and then also you have a program like Orlando, you have programs like Tampa, and what they do is they take a portion of that fine after they pay for the camera system, because you got to remember, there's nowhere, no vendor makes any commission off of these cameras. Nobody's making any commission, but they have organizations like like Orlando has Florida Stops, right? And so what they do is they educate people on the value of stopping on red.
Yeah. Melissa, we're going to have to leave the conversation there, but thank you so much for your insights. Really appreciate it. Lots more to talk about, and we'll probably be revisiting the subject on a future episode. But Melissa Wandel, President of the National Coalition for Safer Roads, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You as well. Well, coming up, we're going to talk about corals and other issues with environmental reporter Steve Newborn. Stay tuned for that on Florida Matters Live and Local.
Support for WUSF comes from listeners like you and from Advent Health. For everything your heart holds, Advent Health is here. Find nationally recognized heart care experts at floridaheartexperts.com.
Turn your old car into powerful local journalism and programming you love on WUSF. When you donate it, we'll handle the pickup for free, and you'll get a tax deduction. And best of all, you'll fuel the news coverage and local shows that keep our community informed and connected. Call 866-WUSF-CAR or visit WUSF.org.
I'm Indira Lakshmanan. A social media creator has gone viral for paying California day laborers to take the day off and go with him to Disneyland instead.
I had been there only one time with my family, with my wife and son, and probably like every time after that was with strangers.
Why? Next time on Here and Now.
Coming up at 1 after Florida Matters Live and Local.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Florida's fragile coral reefs have been battered recently with massive die-offs from disease and warming seas. So a radical idea was hatched: breed corals in laboratories. WSF's Steve Newborn visited a place where they're being raised before they can be released back onto the reef.
This greenhouse could be called a nursery for baby corals. Here, in a fast-growing part of Apollo Beach hemmed in by sprawling subdivisions, sit several 30,000-gallon tanks. Immersed under gentle waves created by water pumps are what look like little hors d'oeuvres of pink, green, and yellow. They're topped with tiny dabs. Those dabs are baby corals, the end product of several years trying to figure out how to spawn them on land.
So we call this the Ark, and this is our Tampa Bay farm.
Sherry Sutton is executive director of Reef Renewal USA, and like some kind of modern-day coral Noah, she's trying to rise above the threatening storms of warming seas, disease, and rising oceans.
We need to grow the corals of the future, and so we really need to sit down and think about what that's going to be.
What it's become are a dozen or so concrete tanks with grates holding little squares Sutton calls paper. They're topped with the end product of years of research by the Florida Aquarium, tiny baby corals. In January, the aquarium transferred 9,000 juvenile corals spawned in its Apollo Beach grow house. Now they're being nurtured, if you will, at places like this a few miles away.
So it'll grow on these papers until it fills the entire paper, and then we'll frag it. We'll take it over there to the saws, and we'll take it what we call a fragging process. And it really just propagates the coral, much like you'd cut a plant and have it grow roots, and it helps stimulate it to grow faster.
This means the original rootstock can continue to keep growing. In the tanks, little sailfin mollies are on patrol, gobbling up algae that can smother the corals. Shade cloths high above mimic the natural undersea light. They've even planted mangrove trees to help create as natural a setting as possible for these little guys. They want to grow 300,000 corals every year. They hope to return these corals to the reef sometime next year. One key goal is to have a diverse number of species which may be more able to withstand hotter seas and disease.
So we have different genotypes, different species, and then we're able to test them. Because we believe that the corals of the future aren't born yet, right? Their parents are here, but we really need to figure out what those corals are that are going to thrive in the future.
Much of this is funded by the State Department of Environmental Protection. It's part of Florida's Coral Reef Protection and Restoration Program. They plan to restore at least 25% of Florida's coral reef by 2050. Reef Renewal received $830,000 from the program this year. Sutton says they also have a federal NOAA grant as well as private donations. The biggest donation might have been the land itself. This is a former aquarium fish farm owned by Marty Tanner. One of Reef Renewal's board members knew he wanted to help.
It's something that I've been interested in my whole life. I think if there's going to be a change, we're going to have to do it at this level. I mean, they're thinking they need as many as 5 or 6 million corals to repopulate the reef in the next 4 or 5 years, and we're not going to do it 10,000 pieces at a time.
Tanner says he plans to become the state's largest land-based grower of coral, and it's all pro bono. No money will come his way, but a lot of satisfaction will.
I've actually got a place down in the Keys. I took my grandson down there last year in Dove, and it was just to see him experience the reef system through a child's eyes. I mean, that was just priceless. So we're building a foundation for the future.
And because of efforts like this, Florida's coral reef may have a future as well.
Wow. So Steve Newborn with that feature there joins us in the studio now. I'm kind of blown away by Marty Tanner, the biggest land-based coral growing operation. That's kind of mind-boggling when you think about it.
Yeah, he never set out to do this. This guy was he grew aquarium fish. Hillsborough County is one of the biggest producers of aquarium fish in the country, and he retired and decided to do something he thought could really help out the environment. So voila, corals presented itself.
Now, you've been following this story for a while. We actually, there was an interview you did maybe 6 months ago, maybe a little more recently than that, but sort of talking about the way these corals they're trying to propagate them. What's it like to see the next phase as they're kind of hatched in these little hatcheries?
Yeah, I'll paraphrase what Carrie O'Neill, who's the head of the coral program at the Florida Aquarium, told me. She said, this is like her babies and watching them grow up. They took this new technology they developed on their own to spawn them in the laboratories. This is the next step, right? This is kind of the halfway house for the teenagers, so to speak, right? So they'll grow up here for about a year. They'll cut them off, leave the little base there to keep growing again. And in 2027, hopefully these little babies will start growing on the reef again.
Yeah, and they're okay. So I was also thinking about the way these creatures function, because they're talking about roots and kind of rootstock, but they're animals. So they're kind of like, I don't know if you're familiar with Guardians of the Galaxy, sort of like Groot, that kind of animate tree character. Are they a bit like that?
Well, I'm not familiar with that character, but they do grow. They are animals. You don't look at them; they look like rocks, right?
Yeah.
But they do grow, and they need algae to survive. All sorts of things. And the big question here is, can they survive in Florida's warming seas? Right. A couple of years ago, we had 101 degree temperature recorded in the Keys, and there's a lot of disease out there: stony coral tissue loss, all sorts of ways for them not to live. So that's kind of rolling the dice here, and you're seeing which will survive, and they'll plant as many as they can and see who lives.
Is this essentially, as you point out, a giant roll of the dice? Is it really just kind of a Hail Mary? Because there are so many challenges to the corals, right? It's like whether it's warming seas, whether it's disease, other kind of environmental shocks. They don't really know how this is going to work.
Well, some of the corals that are in this program were actually rescued after the warming trend back a couple of years ago when it got up to 101 degrees. So some of them have a base to begin with, that they're a little more resilient. But it's just, you put as many out there, get as diverse a base as you can, and hopefully will determine which ones can survive. And they're not going to live without human intervention, unfortunately. That's just the way it is right now.
What's the timeline then? When are they actually going to put these back on the reef?
These babies that I just profiled will go out there next year. And this is an ongoing program. So the state is putting a lot of money into this. And, they're by 2050, they hope to get at least a quarter of the historic reef in southeast Florida back.
Okay, so this is back in the Keys, down in the Keys, I should say. Now, are you going to do the ride-along when they take them out in the boat and replant them?
Well, if my boss will let me, sure. Yeah, they've already said, you want to come out and dive? I'm a certified diver. I can go out there with them and actually watch them transplanted. So I can handle a trip to the Keys, no doubt about it.
All right. Hopefully your boss is listening to this and is willing to send you down there. Steve Newborn reporting on the fate of these corals, the plan to regrow them on dry land and put them back in the wild. You can see some beautiful photos courtesy of Daylina Miller on WSF.org as well. Steve, thanks so much for stopping by.
Anytime, Matthew.
And as you point out, they do look delicious, but hopefully you didn't eat any while you were down there.
No, I'm not eating any coral. I'm not that hungry.
Yeah. We've been speaking with WSF's environmental and politics reporter Steve Newborn, and coming up, we talk with the Florida Aquarium about their helping keep the learning going through spring break, staying with our aquatic theme. You're listening to Florida Matters live and local. Stay with us.
At WUSF, support comes from the people who listen, like you. Also, Badawi Law, offering legal services in personal injury, immigration, and auto accidents, with offices in Tampa, Florida. Office information and practice details at BadawiLaw.com or learn more on Instagram at Badawi Law. Citizens Property Insurance. Whether recovering or preparing for the next storm, Citizens is available to their customers. Claims can be tracked, and more information is available online at citizensfla.com or reported by calling a live Citizens representative.
WUSF brings you local joy, like a group in Sarasota that's helping a new generation learn the art of improv.
They're so fun, they're always up in energy, and it's always fun to just be here. I made up the saying, once you come here, you live here.
WUSF is your spot for fun stuff to do in your community.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Well, spring break may have ended for Pinellas and Hillsborough County school kids, but the fun is not over at the Florida Aquarium. The aquarium extended its hours through April 19th, and maybe if the idea of catching a plane is stressing you out a bit, they're offering visitors an escape without the hassle of traveling. Joining us to talk more about all the aquarium has to offer in this next season is Pete Colangelo, Vice President of Experience Design, and Tristan Ware, Senior Director of Learning at the Florida Aquarium. Pete and Tristan, thank you so much for being with us.
You bet. Thank you, Matthew, for having us.
And if there's an experience at the aquarium that you've been fishing for, now's the chance to find out more. You can join the conversation. Give us a call, 813-755-6563. Maybe you stopped by the aquarium recently. You can tell us about what you enjoyed seeing or experiencing there. The number again, 813-755-6562. You can also email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Well, let's dive into the spring break experience a little bit. So, Tristan, what did you do differently for the week schools were closed?
Sure. So it's been a busy last week, and we realized spring break isn't over for a lot of places as well. So we've had some added programs out on the floor that are advertised for our guests to come enjoy as part of their admission. I know Pete can speak to that in a little more detail. And then we have a lot of things coming up in the month of April. One thing that's kicking off is our evening Tide Talk for April 8th. A wonderful speaker, Erica Moulton, will be here talking about underwater robots, basically what we call ROVs, remote operated vehicles. Mm-hmm. Easter is right around the corner, so we've got some fun things happening for that as well. So the weekend of April 3rd through 5th. The Easter Bunny will be here, both in the water and hopping around the aquarium. Marshall is our Easter rabbit. And then there will be an Easter egg hunt throughout the habitat. So all around the aquarium, you can find eggs hidden around. And that's all included with admission that weekend.
Mm-hmm. Pete, what was spring break like for you? Did it sort of play out the way you expected?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it did, actually. The aquarium is just finishing up their 30th year here in Tampa. Can you imagine? And there's so many times I've asked people, or people find out where I work, and they say, I send them to Florida Aquarium. They go, "Oh my gosh, I haven't been there quite some time." I go, "Well, why not? We've changed so much." And so spring break, we with the things that we have to offer beyond the regular visit of touring a great guest pathway. I mean, you can get an extra encounter with penguins, or South African penguins. You can have a 45-minute interactive experience with them. We have a Sea Trek guided underwater walking tour where you don't have to be a certified diver to experience what it's like to be surrounded by thousands of fish, if that doesn't freak you out a little bit. But it's
how does that actually work? Talk me through the kind of technology that you use to put people underwater.
Well, it's like a rebreather. It's this big helmet that has a big glass window on it, and I can't really talk to the mechanics of it, but the air is fed through a tube from above, and so you are actually like with a diver. Now we do have divers down there with you, just in case anything should go wrong, but nothing ever has. But so yeah, it's quite the experience. And anybody can do that, all ages of folks to do that.
Have you done that yourself?
Oh my gosh, you had to ask, Matthew. I have not.
I've done it. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's it like, Tristan? I mean, you putting that helmet on your head, a little bit of trepidation and sort of stepping into a giant tank of fish?
Yes, no, it's exciting. So I can speak to it from a couple of different standpoints because both my children got to do the program when they were old enough at 10. So it is. It's, if you've never been in the water before, I'm also a certified diver, so comfortable in the water. But this experience is for those that aren't divers, and it allows them a very safe way to experience what it's like underwater, and hopefully that will actually get them excited about maybe taking next steps and getting certified. So yes, our divers walk you through the process. You come down a ladder, they lower the helmet onto you, and there's some weight to the helmet. It's over 70 pounds because it's going to keep you down underwater, but you're upright, and all you have to do is simply walk and keep breathing, and you've got all the animals swimming around you at that time. The divers are keeping an eye on you, asking you questions. You can actually see the guests out in the pathway as well, and you can wave to family and friends that are out there. So once you get over the coolness of the water and descending down, you kind of forget about all of that and enjoy the animals that are around you.
So this is kind of maybe not your grandparents' aquarium, right? Like you're taking it as far as possible in terms of getting up close with these creatures, actually getting in the water with them. And that's kind of a trend that you're seeing with a lot of aquariums and zoos and other places where people aren't necessarily separated by the perspex anymore. You can actually kind of be in with the animal.
And that's right. And that's what our guests are wanting. They want to be able to get up close with them. I mean, how else can you get them to care about the environment without having them fall in love with an animal that close? So we have those things. You can hand feed stingrays here. You can have a sloth encounter where you can get up close and personal with a two-toed sloth. And then we also have, the virtual reality experience, like a lot of other aquariums are doing also, where if you aren't as prone to get into the water like that, you don't necessarily have to. You get up and close with an animal through virtual.
If you're just joining us on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking with Pete Colangelo, Vice President of Experience Design at the Florida Aquarium, and Tristan Ware, Senior Director of Learning at the aquarium. If you've got some thoughts, maybe you've taken one of these aquarium experiences yourself or some ideas, give us a call, 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562, or email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. I want to just kind of change tack a little bit and talk about how you both got into the work you're doing. And Tristan, a bit of a giveaway, I suppose, the fact that you're a certified diver, so you've clearly got an interest there anyway. Is that sort of what led you into this, or did the two go hand in hand?
No, the interest in the animal world was the first thing. So I grew up in landlocked Kentucky, and there weren't a lot of marine opportunities there. So after finishing school, I migrated down to Florida and realized that you could do marine science education. I didn't realize that was a career path. So I spent some time in the Keys where I picked up my diving certification. And then, as much as I love the Keys, it wasn't necessarily a career path there. So I came up to Tampa. I've been with the aquarium for just over 20 years because I can mix educating the young minds, helping them have those aha moments, and also helping grow staff members that are here. So it's been not a linear journey by any stretch of the imagination. But yes, allowing me to combine the love of animals and the environment and the ocean and help bring that to others.
Pete, what about yourself? How long have you been with the aquarium, and what got you involved?
Yeah, I've been in the aquarium for 18 years now, but I came from the space program. I was at Johnson Space Center and Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex for 8.5 years there. And, if you ask the astronauts what do they enjoy most about being an astronaut is looking out the window and looking down at that big blue marble, right? And so, so I just love the idea of exploration. And that's what we got at the space program. But things were changing, as you know. The shuttle program was shutting down, and I was looking for something a little bit different. And I saw in the trades that the Florida Aquarium was looking for something I do, and so I thought, well, let's try it, give it a shot. I really had no idea what it was like, but I can see the parallels between the working with the scientists and the astronauts at Kennedy to working with the great folks here at the aquarium and the explorers here at the aquarium. So
yeah,
I love it.
There's a lot of parallels too, right? I mean, there's so much we don't know about what's under the ocean. Same to do with space, right? There's a lot unexplored out there, and will probably remain unexplored. But hopefully, we'll get a more of an idea of what's down in the depths of the ocean, because it's on Earth. We don't have to go too far to get there. But there are definitely some kind of parallels between ocean exploration and space exploration.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so in terms of how you go about designing experiences, like what's the next frontier? You talked about virtual reality. Is that sort of where you see things heading, or are you just looking for more ways to get people up close, even closer with the animals?
Absolutely. We are in the midst right now of designing a puffin habitat, new puffin habitat, and a California sea lion, and I get a permanent home for our South African black-footed penguins. So that's coming up in the next couple of years. We start breaking ground in mid-August. But yeah, we're finding ways where people can connect that, again, go a little deeper with the with the animal. So I don't want to give all the secrets away, but that is definitely something we want to do. And anything we do here is also we try to engage fun and active play if we can.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask Tristan. I mean, is there a kind of a line you have to tread in terms of you're getting people close to the animals, but obviously they're wild animals still, although they are in an aquarium space, so there's definitely some parameters. But what's the line you have to tread in terms of making sure you're kind of maintaining their sort of their boundaries, the boundaries they need to maintain as animals?
Sure. Obviously, safety for all living things involved, our animals and our humans, is always the driving force behind everything that we do. But again, as Pete mentioned earlier, allowing guests to have as close interactions as possible really connects them with what we have here. So the more animals that we can bring out, even if it is to just observe the sloth or the penguin from a little bit of a distance, it's just amazing to watch how people light up and what they're willing to learn and absorb in that time frame. Because when they can see the animal, all of a sudden that connection is there, and they're probably, especially for the younger audience, they're eating up every little bit of information that's been given to them. So we try to design a lot of programs to be very inclusive of all ages, to try to get as many people involved, whether it's our TOTS program where we have our young 3 to 5 year olds with a parent. They're learning side by side of each other, or being able to do a family program on the weekend, as much as we can to tell them about our animals, share stories. We have an amazing veterinary team that looks at our animals on a regular basis, and they have some amazing stories. We've treated cancer in several different animals here at the aquarium. Those things resonate with our guests and make our animals more relatable.
Pete, spring break, of course, it's a ritual for schools, but what activities do adults seem to enjoy the most?
Here at the Florida Aquarium?
Yeah.
That's a good one. I think if they're with a family, it's making those memories, right? But the adults, there's plenty of stuff to do. We even have I don't know if I mentioned we have a 72-foot catamaran that takes our guests out to, into the bay, into Tampa Bay. And typically are also sighting dolphins. So that seems to resonate really well with the older, well, I guess with everybody. I don't, it's hard to say, Matthew. If there anything here for adults? Tristan, can you think of anything that adults and kids don't enjoy collectively here?
I think, everybody's got their different interest levels. So I think what we're doing by trying to bring a lot of different opportunities forward allows us to, connect with as many guests of all ages as possible. We have visitors that are just happy to be here because it's nice and warm here in Florida than it is wherever they came from. Yes, they do love getting out on the boat, but they also just love to sit in front of our large coral reef area and enjoy watching the turtle and the fish and the sharks cruise around. So our wetlands area feels like you're hiking out in Florida on a little trail. So I think we offer a little bit for everybody.
Yeah.
Well,
we're going to have to leave the conversation there, but I want to thank you both. Joining us to talk about the Florida Aquarium is Tristan Ware, Senior Director of Learning, and Pete Colangelo, Vice President of Experience Design. Thank you both so very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, coming up, stay with us to hear a few of WSF's most intriguing stories from the last month or so. That's when Florida Matters Live and Local continues.
Listener support powers WUSF. Funding also comes from Seitenbacher, with a new web shop, healthy muesli, cold-pressed oils, and vegetable broth mix delivered to your door from right here in Tampa Bay. Details at Seitenbacher.com, Seitenbacher, Seitenbacher.
I'm Peter O'Dowd. A network of private schools says its AI software helps students learn what they need to know in just 2 hours a day. But an investigative reporter says Alpha Schools trains its software using textbooks without permission.
You want to plunder existing human work and offer the same product without any labor costs.
Next time on Here and Now.
Coming up at 1 after Florida Matters Live and Local.
Hi, I'm Mark Schreiner. In addition to serving as WUSF's Assistant News Director, I'm also our Intern Coordinator. It's a tremendous honor to get to teach young, aspiring journalists and help them on the first steps of what will hopefully be long, successful careers. Keep listening to WUSF and supporting the next generation of journalism.
Need some jazz in your life? Enjoy videos of local performers, listen to curated playlists, and find shows and festivals in your area at WUSFjazz.org. Thanks to our founding sponsor, Community Foundation Tampa Bay.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Time now to highlight some of the WSF news team's reporting. Coming up, you're going to meet a guy who's sworn off supermarkets and is foraging for his food for an entire year. Also, Jaws, the movie that launched the concept of the summer blockbuster that actually turned 50 last year. But right now in Tampa, you can catch a play written by the son of Robert Shaw, the actor who starred in Jaws. Hear about that play in a bit. But first, school choice expansions in recent years have given parents more options for their children. This has led to an increase in micro schools in Florida. WSF's Daylina Miller reports on one such school in Newport Richey that bases many of its classes around nature.
It's shortly before 10 a.m. in the backyard of a small custard-colored bungalow nestled into an older West Pasco County neighborhood. For the past half hour, children between the ages of 5 and 10 have rolled in with their parents. 5-year-old Adam, who still hasn't tired of his blippy Halloween costume, makes a beeline for the new slide. His blue and orange cap and bow tie bouncing with his steps.
You're gonna go down the new slide?
Ahava Nature School is named for the Hebrew word for love. It's been open for less than 2 years, but it's already made an impact with the 14 children enrolled here, says school founder Chantel Excel.
We have our biggest regulator in front of us, which is the earth and nature. So we always like to start the day that way.
The nonprofit school has a waiting list. Most of the children are here on homeschool scholarships, and several are neurodivergent. They may fidget or struggle to sit still. That makes traditional public and private schooling difficult. Teachers there are not equipped to work one-on-one with them, and the kids are often chastised or even disciplined.
The message they're receiving is this is not the place for you and that there's something wrong with you.
Excel says Ahava has a small teacher-to-child ratio. It ensures each student is accommodated and encouraged. After the kids have burned off a little energy, she directs them to the living room of the house, where they all gather on the floor, crisscross applesauce, to talk about bees.
Does anyone know the purpose of a bee?
They pollinate. They pollinate our food.
Yes.
And sometimes when they get scared, they sting you.
Yes.
Then they pivot into a quick lesson about counting change.
Okay, so
Core lessons on math, English, and science are taught through hands-on play and activities and are adjusted appropriately for each child's age and level of understanding. Excel also considers their interests.
A particular child here is really into trains, so we brought somebody in who is a train expert. He was a train engineer, and they were able to learn all about that process.
Later in the morning, the group takes a leisurely half-mile walk to downtown Newport Richey. Excel stops to show the kids a natural beehive on a tree from a safe distance on the sidewalk.
Yeah, that's cool.
They keep walking. Along the way, they stop to pick up flowers and leaves they'll use to make stamps later.
Do you think these leaves would make a nice pattern? Yeah. Let's pick some.
Once downtown, the kids scatter to pick plants and climb trees. 11-year-old Hope sits down on a short boat dock along the Cody River and swirls a stick in the water. She says she looks forward to school every day now.
I get to see wildlife, and you can see millipedes, lizards, birds.
She recently started at Ahava after some trouble in public school. Ahava, she says quietly, is different.
There's no bullies.
Afterward, teacher Charlotte's son directs them to raised garden beds in the backyard.
Team Ahava, answer me this. Why do we need to trim the plants?
So we can plant more.
So we can plant more. What are we going to plant?
Carrots.
Son passes out scissors, then leans down to the ground and gently grips a fistful of arugula.
And I'm just going to trim as close to the ground as possible.
8-year-old Madeline watches closely. Her mom, Michelle McLaren, says she cheers the start of the school week.
She can tell me what vegetation this is. Can you eat that? You can eat this weed. Just really cool stuff like that. Obviously they do core, but core is very different here. It's very play.
After their garden time, the kids dig through baskets of plants they collected on their walk. They brush paint onto the leaves and flowers and use them to stamp white tea towels.
It's okay if it's not perfect.
Tomorrow, they'll sell them at a nearby farmer's market. The rest of the afternoon is spent practicing their baking skills on pumpkin muffins. Founder Chantel Excel smiles as she watches nearby. The kids' eyes light up when they answer questions correctly.
I almost thought we were opening this little secret tiny space, and I had no idea that the need would be so great.
It's now close to 3 in the afternoon, and while the muffins bake, the kids pack up their backpacks. Adam, who hours ago discarded his blippy hat and orange plastic glasses, shoves them into his bag.
We'll see you on Wednesday, buddy.
Excel says with more community funding, they can hire more teachers and take on more students. She even dreams of opening a second location one day.
Dalina Miller with that story, and you can see photos from their reporting trip to the micro school at WUSF.org. Well, staying with the theme of nature, most people see a dandelion in their backyard as a pesky weed, but if you're Robin Greenfield, you see an afternoon snack. He's an activist who's foraging 100% of his food for a year and teaching people along the way. WUSF's Gabriella Paul met him during a foraging walk in Tampa. He's been living off preserved car-killed deer, salt from the ocean, and citrus picked from public parks.
Robin Greenfield is barefoot, wearing a floppy hat and lugging around a wild yam that he's saving for dinner. He tells us to gather around a big hibiscus bush on the edge of Sweetwater Farm.
So you can just pluck those flowers right off, eat them just fresh, just like that.
I haven't had too many of these yet.
You're hungry. He tells us to dig in next and asks us what we think.
So what do y'all think of the flavor? Yummy? Sweeter than you thought?
I just noticed there was like a lot of little ants inside of it when I opened it. But I'm sure that's extra nutrition, especially if you're protein.
You're right. Some people wait for those ants to crawl out. I myself just eat those ants.
4 months into his year of foraging, Greenfield says he's eaten his fair share of bugs. The last one he tried, a stink bug.
It was not what I expected. It was so powerful. My eyes started watering. It helped clear out my nose. It was kind of like a maraschino cherry, like times 10.
He says foraging is about harvesting what's wild rather than plants or animals farmed for human consumption. But there's still rules, like never eat anything you can't identify.
Ooh, look at this.
Greenfield identifies our next meal, a bed of clover-like weeds right under my feet. Okay, so I have just plucked what's known as oxalis or wood sorrel. Let's see. Okay. It's got an earthy taste to it, and there's literally a punch of lemon flavor. Apparently, these are also nicknamed juicies, and I absolutely see why. I would eat this again, 10 out of 10. These small sprouts made a believer out of Kelly Grimsdale, too. She's an Ybor City realtor who's into gardening but new to foraging.
I'm very interested in Florida native plants and just nature in general, so I found this really interesting, and it's going to make me look at my weeds a little bit differently in my yard.
She says what used to be prime targets for Roundup in her backyard might just end up as salad toppers now. Still, it's hard to imagine feeling full off a diet of dandelions and clovers. That's why Greenfield says he forages protein, too.
I eat a lot of venison, and I eat what people call roadkill. I don't say roadkill, though. I say a deer that was hit by a car.
Have you had any Have you had any recently killed animals in Florida?
Car-killed deer is another way to put it. I have not in Florida. I did attempt to hunt for a wild hog here in Florida, but I'm a rookie hunter, and I missed my shot. But fortunately, the fish are abundant, and I brought canned car-killed deer with me that I'm able to fall back on.
He also travels with stores of fruits, veggies, nuts, and herbs in all forms, pressure canned, dehydrated, frozen, and fermented. In Florida, he says he's surviving off of mushrooms from Wisconsin, salt harvested from the Gulf, and citrus from public parks. He knows this can't be everyone's journey, but Greenfield says he hopes to show people it is possible, especially in places like Tampa, where food costs are so high.
For people that are struggling, I would definitely like them to know that there is food and medicine growing right here, freely and abundantly around us. And a lot of it are the plants that they would consider weeds, that they would even consider spraying pesticides on, that they could actually eat instead.
That's not to say that Greenfield doesn't have any cravings. When he finishes his year of foraging, he's dreaming of a nice, warm cookie.
A hippie cookie, though, with good, nutritious ingredients, covered in like almond butter and drizzled with honey. Something like that sounds pretty good right now.
But for the foreseeable future, it's bugs, plants, and car-killed deer. Greenfield wraps up the Florida leg of his tour this week. Next, he'll forage up the East Coast as he continues his year-long challenge to live off the land.
Actually, Rob Greenfield's been foraging for a while now. I actually talked to him back in Orlando in 2019. We climbed some trees to look for wild citrus, and he told me about trying to trap a feral rooster. Well, speaking of wild animals, Tampa's Job Site Theatre is presenting a play based on the making of the movie Jaws. Shark is Broken was co-written by Ian Shaw. He's the son of actor Robert Shaw, who starred in Jaws. He played Quint, the shark hunter, in the movie. WSF's Susan Giles Wontok tells you Ian Shaw had the inside scoop. He was on the set while the film was being made.
There have been several documentaries about the mechanical and interpersonal troubles during the making of Jaws. But job site producing artistic director David Jenkins says Ian Shaw had something no one else had to drive the narrative of his comedy: his dad Robert's drinking diary.
And so if I had to guess, in finding this diary and reading a lot of these stories, that some of them he probably knew, some of them maybe he didn't know, and that sort of like that flood of memories, not only of the experience, but the man, I feel like that's probably where this came from.
Jenkins says Ian Shaw likely gained some insight by playing his dad in the London run of The Shark is Broken.
Well, The Shark is Broken runs through April 5th at Job Site Theatre in downtown Tampa. You can see photos of the production at WUSF.org. Well, last week we told you about the USF Men's Ice Hockey Club, which was in St. Louis for the Division III National Championship. Well, the Ice Bulls fell short of their goal, finishing pool play with a 1-2 record. They fell in their last game Friday, 7-2 to the U.S. Air Force Academy. If there's any consolation for USF, it is that the Air Force actually won the championship, beating Oakland Academy 5-3 on Sunday. Well, that's our show for today. Next time on Florida Matters Live and Local, St. Petersburg is proud of its reputation as a haven for arts and culture, but is new development pricing people out? We're going to talk about whether St. Pete is facing an identity crisis driven by rising prices. What do you think? Let us know by calling 813-755-6562 and leaving a message. Then join the conversation Tuesday at noon. Our executive producer is Grayson Doctor. Our producers are Amelie Horace and Quincy Walters. Our engineers, Jackson Harp and Gio Garvin. Jackson composed our theme music. Malika Hollis handled the video today. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and watch on WSF's YouTube channel. I'm Matthew Petty. Thanks for listening and watching.
The Cade Museum in Gainesville presents The Birth of Sports Science, from Gatorade to other amazing game changers. The exhibit explores how science and invention have transformed sport.